Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. So today will be part 2 to the video about DJI Aeroscope and how it's impeding the war in Ukraine. Now, there have been a lot of comments about how to avoid it, and I just like to bring some of the very good points up and then tell you about what's actually happening on the ground in Ukraine. So number one, does DJI Aeroscope work? And the quick question to that is yes, it does. I myself is an example because my family has a really large estate, and I constantly buy drones and deliver drones to the Ukrainian military. But every time I get a new drone, before I send it off, I test it. And because every single flight in Ukraine is currently not even restricted, it's basically forbidden, I have to call the Ukrainian military, tell them like, I'll be flying a drone right now, don't freak out. And they say yes or no. And if they give a green light, I go ahead and fly it and everything is good. So a few days ago, I forgot to call him. I decided to fly the drone around, see how good the camera is, the whole 9 yards. And half an hour goes by, apparently the amount of time it takes to go through all the channels. And I get a phone call from my contact in the Ukrainian military, and he's like, did you fly your drone above the lake about an hour ago? I'm like, yes, I did. He's like, don't do that again without calling me first, because those guys over there are freaking out. I'm like, okay, won't do it. So apparently they have a DJI Aeroscope somewhere in this area. So every time I take off, they know it. Every time I power on my drone, they know it. It's basically to fight with the saboteurs from the Russian side. So when those guys take off on their drones, they immediately send a squad out to catch the pilot. So DJI Aeroscope does work. As far as the comments that I've received under the previous video, it's like, use the DJI FPV, do this, remove the module, reprogram it. And all of those points are very good. Many DJI pilots that have been pilots before the war, they're actually using many of the suggestions provided. They're using FPV drones. They're using drones that are unable to be tracked by DJI Aeroscope. However, the vast majority of all the drones in the market are DJI. And most of the, I'm not even going to call them pilots, most of the operators at the front are inexperienced pilots. So their job first is to fight, and their job second is to send out a drone to do some reconnaissance. So they are not really looking forward to learning new techniques, for example, like piloting a FPV drone, because I did bring up, I had a really long conversation with another experienced drone pilot who's actually very close to the front lines. And I asked them all those questions. I'm like, how come they don't want to look into the FPV drones? How come they don't want to get like DJI 2 Enterprise, which you can actually encrypt the drone, and the drone constantly provides a feedback as far as GPS positioning of the drone. So if you fly over the target, you know exactly the GPS position coordinates for that target. And his answer was so simple. He said, they just don't want to learn new stuff. So like if they learn to use a Mavic 2, which takes about 15 minutes basically, they don't want to learn how to map out a route in DJI Pilot and send the drone and take cover, and the drone will come back once it has flown its route, taking all the pictures. So they just don't want to overcomplicate things. So as of right now, the same solution that was in place 2-3 months ago when the war first began, the same solution still stands, which is, and this is how they battle DJI Aeroscope, because the Russian side has a lot of DJI Aeroscopes, and every time a drone is up, DJI drone or any drone that is seen by DJI Aeroscope, they know, and they try to aim artillery at the pilot, at the location of the pilot, and they at the same time they try to shoot down the drone because they see the coordinates for the drone. So the same solution still stands. Basically, do not turn on the drone until you're ready to fly. Once you turn on the drone, get the hell out of there while the drone is seeking satellites, because they say you have about anywhere from 1 minute to 3 minutes by the time the artillery hits that GPS location. So power on the drone, get at least 100-200 yards away, launch the drone, fly the mission, at the same time, make sure that GPS coordinates in your phone are turned off completely. If they're not, keep moving, so you cannot stay in the same location, and it's better done from a moving vehicle. So keep moving about, so artillery cannot get a locked position onto the pilot's coordinates. Fly the mission, hit the return home button, have the drone return to the home point. As soon as it begins landing, cancel the return home and fly it to a completely different location where you're able to pick it up. So basically the game of cat and mouse. Constantly keep the Russians guessing where to fire their artillery. So constantly keep changing your position. And there have been exercises, I'm aware of this, like when a pilot would be in the back of a pickup, they would be constantly driving around, never following the same route, while pilot is operating the drone, and basically just to keep the enemy guessing where the pilot is. Because if it's a moving target, it's very difficult to get a lock on position onto the moving target. So don't move in a straight line. Constantly keep the enemy guessing while you're in the same neighborhood. But again, the best thing is to use fake GPS. It's very simple, and we have taught this to pilots, how to use fake GPS. Basically, what you do is you unlock the developer options in your phone, you connect to the fake GPS app, you put the fake GPS somewhere completely separate. Like many people suggested, you actually use the location of the enemy targets for the fake GPS, which is brilliant. I mean, I don't know if they actually started doing that, but that is brilliant. And while your phone is locked onto the fake GPS, then you fly your mission. So it's very cool how it's done. But as long as the position of the pilot is unknown, nobody cares about the position of the drone, because again, we have the manual. I'll show you the manual right here. I downloaded the images of how they actually did the whole manual thing in like drawings for the pilots at the front, how to pilot the drones, and it's fantastic. It works. The only drawback is right now I cannot sort of influence the decision makers as to which drones to buy, because it took me only 2 months to get it across to the decision makers that Mavic 2 Zoom is probably the best drone right now for its cost for the Ukrainian military. And guess what? Right now you can't find a Mavic 2 Zoom anywhere. All of them have been bought out. They buy a lot of Mavic 3s, but right now I'm trying to persuade them that the Mavic 2 Pro is also an excellent drone, because my reasoning for it is if you have a smart controller and you just need one, drones are replaceable. You can get as many drones as you want. If they're shut down, get a new drone, use the same smart controller. You can map out a mission now with the Mavic 2 Pro, with the DJI Pilot, I think it's PE app. Kind of like you do the same with Enterprise. Launch it and take cover. The drone will fly a mission, take pictures, and come back. So kind of like that. But yeah, in the last month, we have developed so many techniques to avoid the Aeroscope that all the comments under the last video actually really helped. So yeah, thank you guys for watching. Thank you for being subscribed to the channel, and I'll see you guys later.